Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cryptocurrent. Just one quick reminder. Cryptocurrent is a cryptocurrency and blockchain education platform that's bridging the gap between the curious newcomers who are just discovering the space and the thought leaders who are shaping its future. All opinions expressed by Richard Carthon, the Cryptocurrent team, and their guests on this show are exclusively their own opinions. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Richard, the team, and their guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow as financial advice. This show and any other Cryptocurrent production is exclusively for informational purposes.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon, and today is an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you, and we have an absolute gem for you. Today is a special day because it is episode 300. Y'all, that is such a huge accomplishment. I am so excited to be here speaking with you today, and of course, having our COO, Steve Miller, here to share this moment with us. But we're going to be talking about all the different things that we've kind of accomplished along the way to episode 300, our plan for the next 100 episodes, and some of the highlights in direction that we've been able to bring Cryptocurrent throughout the years. This has been a journey. It's been a learning experience. And first and foremost, we appreciate you all for being a part of this journey and being a part of this community and helping us give the feedback so that we can continue to build and create the content that you're seeking out. So, Steve, I'm happy to be here. How are you doing today?
Man, I couldn't be more excited to be here. This is a celebration of everything that Cryptocurrent's done from the very beginnings of when you started a humble little podcast in the middle of a closet to now having, a team that's spread basically around the world, putting out crypto content on a weekly basis. We are really, really excited about what we have in store, but we're really proud of what we've done, since the days of the closet, if you will. But I'm thrilled to be here, man. And I'm excited to be celebrating it with you.
Absolutely. So for the reference back to the closet, so the very first episode that we ever recorded 4 years ago in July, we were at our producer Andrew's house, and the first episode that we tried to create, I think ended up coming out to about 15, 20 minutes. And it took us like 5 hours to record because we were brand new, figuring everything out, and we didn't have a process yet. So over the course of the last 4 years, not only have we created processes, streamlined them, and been able to grow our team, we've also been able to find a way to have effective communication and trust each other in the different aspects of the business. I was happy to bring on Steve about 2 years ago now to be able to work with us to keep streamlining processes, helping our operations and helping us grow, and to streamline our focuses on who this content was meant for and how we could reach everyone where they are. And through that, we've really been able to hone in and zero in on how we can meet each of you where you are within your crypto journey. And so that's what we kind of want to do today through all the different phases of content that we are now providing. We want to explain who that content is for, how it can be received, and where we can meet you where you are. So the first place we're going to start is the podcast. It's the OG. It's been around the longest. Again, we're celebrating episode 300 right now. So when you think about the Cryptocurrent podcast, this is probably going to be for your person that is not necessarily a novice into the space, but is already involved in crypto, knows a little bit about it, to your absolute crypto OG. You've been here, you know what's going on, and you want to learn about new projects that are coming out here. You want to get alpha on some of these newer projects. We've had a lot of alpha throughout the years. We actually went and created a tool online to kind of show you that if you were to have invested like $100 in each of the projects the day it came out on our show, where it'd be at And it's had some pretty good success even in this bear market. I think currently you would still be up roughly the 30 or 40%. But at the height of last year, when it was the bullish times, I think it was somewhere between like 250 and 300% or something like that, which is pretty wild. So we are bringing you really amazing projects early on the lifespan of their trajectory. And it's also been really helpful for a lot of builders in this space to get experience with listening to different builders' journey and some of the different struggles and hurdles you've had to overcome and how these different builders in Web3 are going about creating great community, building great businesses, and planning for the future, not for the here and now, but are building for that future. And so we have, again, a ton of episodes that we've been able to drop. We want to highlight just a few for you today. And Steve, I'll let you highlight the first one. I believe you had a pretty good one that you were able to have with episode 278 with Avery Akinini.
Yeah, honest to God, like this is one of those episodes for me, Rich, that I think back on, and I don't like to, I guess, make heroes out of people across crypto, but like to me, Avery Akineni was one of the people that I looked up to most. And as we went into that episode, I was like absolutely blown away at the fact that we were able to line that opportunity up to be able to really hear from somebody who is setting real bars in the space, right? Like she is working with Vayner NFT on really helping brands integrate into the NFT space. And to me, that's where we're going to see mass adoption is in the NFT world. And the best way that we're going to see mass adoption happen is by getting more of these consumer brands that have genuine interest in having a place in the metaverse to not just come over into Web3, but to bring their audiences with them. I mean, that's such a powerful thing. And to hear a little bit about how Avery thinks about that, what the onboarding process is like, and also to dive a little bit deeper into these experiences that she's had so far with bringing, companies like Budweiser in, right? She had shared on that episode some incredible alpha with us that she'd partnered up with VFriends to get the Johnny Walker deal to go through. It eventually ended up featuring DK Motion, who's one of the top motion artists in the space. I mean, it just goes to show that the opportunities are limitless and the creativity is insane in this space. And you really don't know what's coming next. But I have a feeling that Vayner NFT is going to be ahead of the game when it comes to the NFT branding world. So quite impressed with that episode. And I think there's a lot of other really great insights that people can take away from it. So I hope more people take the chance to look at that episode. But what's the episode that you wanted to share with our audience?
So the one that I wanted to share is one that we've shared in other episodes, but I always like to go back to it because it was just super energizing and highly informative. So we had Dr. Lehman Baird with the Hedera Hashgraph, aka HBAR community. Shout out to y'all. Y'all are absolutely out here and supporters of cryptocurrency. But we had a really good conversation, and he was just talking about how ledgers are going to be the future of how blockchain technology is being utilized in this space and how we are just at the nascence of where this is ultimately growing to and growing for. He dropped a lot of really good gems. And one of the things that he dropped at the end of the episodes that I thought really stuck out with me, because I always like in each of the episodes to either leave a final thought or to take like a core lesson that they learned over the 2 years. And one of the big takeaways that he had was to make sure that what you're building for is serving the greatest good in the world and is going to have the biggest impact. And while doing it in a way that is conducive and helps your team be able to, in your community, be able to be passionate about seeing that vision come true. And so I think that's always a really good reminder. You don't always want to just be another cog in the wheel. You don't want to just keep building another widget for the sake of building another widget, but you want to build something that is solving something that people didn't necessarily know that they needed. I think the example that he had was thinking about what was happening at Apple and the innovations that were being made there, or even the concept of the original car. If people, you would ask people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. But sometimes when you're innovating, you have to push the boundaries and be thinking about what is going to help that next phase, the next generation of people. So again, really good conversation there. And I really enjoyed that. So again, we've had a ton of really good interviews, a ton of amazing alpha, but another thing that we started recently was the Aftershock. And Steve, I'll let you explain what that is.
Yeah, so the Aftershock is our best attempt at a news show, right? Because as you may know, our team here is a smaller team, and it's, I would say, nigh impossible for us to be putting out a daily news show to keep you really on top of the news. But I think that one day our team will get there. The place that we needed to start, though, was on a weekly recap show. So we decided to create that as the Aftershock and play off our cryptocurrent electricity circuitry roots, and really lean into that a little bit with our titling and our branding there. But what we've decided to kind of create in this show is a retrospective on what happened, not just in Web3 at large with like cryptocurrencies, DeFi projects, but also leaning more into the metaverse and really talking about, okay, what are the big breaking stories in NFTs across the last week? What happened with, the evolution of metaverse gaming? All of that stuff really does need a place in the back of every single interested audience member's mind when it comes to staying informed about this space, because it moves just so fast, right? I think you could probably say it best, like when you came into this space, when you started cryptocurrent to where it is now, right? Just as an industry, things have evolved at an absolute breakneck pace. So as you look at just a week, a lot happens. So it's almost like two different worlds. So our pitch for those that have not yet joined us for an Aftershock episode is specifically to really give you a connection to what's going on in the broader world of Web3, to not just keep you connected with the thought leaders, but keep you connected with the news and the things that are shaping the overall narrative and the meta going forward. So that's a little bit about the Aftershock and what we're planning for there. But I do want to go retrospective for 2 seconds with you. Like, if you look at the past 2 years from an industry standpoint, can you expand on what I was saying there from like how it's evolved at a breakneck pace? I'm really curious to hear like what your thoughts are on that part of it.
I mean, 2 years ago, if we'd have been doing breaking news on all things NFTs, no one would have cared. People would have been like, "What's that? Why should I care?" Etc. Now it's so ingrained for people to have an understanding that NFTs exist, first of all, and then also trying to get a deeper understanding of what is the value of each of these, which projects should I be paying attention to, and why would I want to be a part of these? And I remember back when the huge craze of it happened early last year, how many people came to us directly and was asking us about NFTs, right? It's just an unreal amount. And we wanted to make sure that we could provide information and help to speak to it from a place of education, but also from a place of being able to guide people for next steps. And that's one way that it's expanded. Metaverse, besides really Decentraland, there wasn't a whole lot of metaverse plays. Facebook changed their name from Facebook to Meta. Like they're so bullish on Web3, they changed their entire name. You have these gigantic brands that are starting to create and make their own trademarks for Web3 so that they can be ready for that next phase. You look at all of these DeFi protocols that came out that were putting out these really good, attractive APYs. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. How can we keep doing this? And the question that kept coming up was, how is this sustainable? How can this continue to be this way? What are they doing about that? And we're seeing the repercussions of what sustained long APYs can be without having a model that fully has checks and balances, looking at things that happened over at Celsius. Unfortunately, the challenges that came up with BlockFi. You're even looking at stable coins, these things that where everyone was trying to figure out what is a quote unquote stable coin, a peg of 1-to-1 to a stable dollar, and all the different ways they went about it. And we realized that algorithmic stable coins might not be the way to go, aka UST, Terra, and all the ramifications that came from that gigantic collapse. So there has been so much trial and error, new things that came in, trying to see how people can figure this out, and some success, right? There's a lot of these people 2 years ago that had a ton of success and saw a gigantic rise in valuation and also a gigantic fall from grace. So there are opportunities along each way, but you also need to know how to get into these early and when to get out. And that's why you need to be up to date on a weekly basis on what's going on. And you can't get all the information. So how do we get it to you in a very concise way so that you're at least aware of what's happening? And I think that's why Aftershock's been driving so much value.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think when I look back at the experience, the easiest example that I have actually has to relate very closely to how some of this has really evolved over time, right? I think you and I are both great generalists when it comes to speaking about this space, but there is definitely, let's just say, little specializations we formed over time, right? I think that you are very, very well informed and well spoken when it comes to DeFi. And I think that I myself have really fallen into the world of NFTs and metaverse, right? So you have two experts on both sides of the spectrum here as a listener. But as I look back at 2017, when I was first getting into crypto, just as you were getting into crypto, I wasn't stepping into it from the perspective of running cryptocurrency. You were. But as you were telling me about things, even back then, the things that you were telling me were about things like CryptoKitties and these early on NFT projects that I'm just like, nah, man, like you have fun. Like this is bullshit. Like it really is. And as I look back at it now, like you're talking about the project that arguably was the founding basis for the entire Flow blockchain, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. So Rome and the team over at Flow have since evolved that into what you now know as NBA Top Shot and NFL All Day. Like to think that I'm now covering a space that I once was basically accusing as being just a ton of crap because of like the absolute, what is it? Like, I don't want to say novice nature, but like early roots of CryptoKitties and how childish that seemed to me at the time. It really was visionary. So to be thinking about it from that type of lens, I think it gives both of us a lot of experience to be able to share with you these projects that we believe have that type of visionary thought process because we've learned from our own mistakes, right? I should have bought CryptoKitties. You did. I don't know if you still have your CryptoKitty. I still think you're insane for having bought it, but that's not to say that it wasn't a visionary play.
Oh, for sure. And to that end, man, as we have been covering the news, as we're getting more involved and learning about the crypto space is very new, right? It's only been around for roughly 12 years. But you think about the NFT space, yes, the early OG stuff started coming out around 2017, but it really started to pick up around, late 2020, let's call it even 2021. So let's call that 2 to 3 years of newness and people really starting to pay attention to. So very even new within in niche within the crypto space. So we wanted to provide more information, provide access to be able to speak to these things. And we created what is now called NFT Thursdays. So if everyone here is familiar with Clubhouse, when it was coming out during the pandemic, while people couldn't really meet each other, we used to do live content every week talking about all things crypto. So of course, once competing forces, aka Twitter, came out with Twitter Spaces, we were like, this seems like a competitor to Clubhouse, and we already have a pretty good audience over on Twitter. How about we just start this? And so Steve pitched this to me one day, and I was like, "Yeah, bro, go for it." And then Steve, you've taken it on, and it's absolutely grown legs. So can you just tell everybody more about that?
Yeah. So NF Thursdays are otherwise known as Non-Fungible Thursdays. It's our little happy hour session that we do over on Twitter Spaces every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, just directly through the cryptocurrency account. And it's been a really interesting ride. We started out with these smaller groups that was really just a couple of NFT projects that I was a part of in terms of just in their communities. And I would actively like let people know like, hey, we're doing a space. Come on over and like hear about the news and let's talk about alpha. But it's since evolved into, I almost want to say like a performance art piece. Because to me, it's like I'm sitting there trying to find out how to absolutely run through the news in a very, speed run type of fashion, and then give the real speed run over to my co-host for that show, which is Ricochet, who is a rapper that has decided to make his little niche the NFT space. And he absolutely crushes it like every single week by doing these raps that are either recaps of what we just spoke about and like talking a little bit about like his opinion on what's going on in the news from a musical and like a cappella rap perspective, or otherwise like really trying to reset reality for people. And we jokingly in the background call it Rico resets reality, because oftentimes like the entire crypto landscape can become an echo chamber, right? We can constantly only hear the words that we are saying instead of looking at the bigger picture or looking at what the bigger narrative is trying to tell us. And that's his opportunity to kind of let us know, hey, like there's a bigger thing going on here, or you need to take a step back, go touch grass, and like breathe before panicking next time. It's an interesting experiment, but we then immediately move into more of an alpha-centered conversation around what's coming up, what projects are worth your attention, and really where is there opportunity in the world of non-fungible tokens right now. So to me, it's a big opportunity to stay informed, but it's also a great opportunity to get your questions answered. I honestly can't tell you, Rich, how many people that I've had come in just ask beginner-based questions, and then all of a sudden they're regular, appearing guests on the show because they know that we've served them before in terms of answering their questions, but they know that we'll always have their back going forward and helping look out for them and keeping them informed and educated on the things that they need to know to be successful in this space. So it's been a really powerful mechanism for us, but honestly, it's been a really great way to connect with our community. Over on Clubhouse, with what you were talking about, we had a really small audience, right? Because ultimately, the crypto world hadn't fully adopted Clubhouse, right? The NFT world did, and we didn't pay nearly enough attention to it at that point. But we started to over time, and we adapted and we evolved. But as I look at what we did on Twitter Spaces, it was like exactly what you said at the very beginning of the show. We have really modeled ourselves after this idea of meet the audience where they are. And we had at that point, I want to say something to the tune of 15,000 followers over on Twitter. And we've steadily grown that to up over 20 now. And as I think about where we meet them where they are, that's a consistent base, right? Over on Clubhouse, it would have taken us every bit of 2 to 3 years alone to raise that type of audience and trying to connect and force a relationship with crypto listeners over there. They were really just interested at that point in the latest NFT alpha. And it probably would have taken us a little bit to really get to that point where we understood that. So it's a really great show, long and short, but I really want to encourage the audience to join us for that at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays over on Twitter Spaces so that you can have your questions answered more than anything else, right? We'll keep you informed, but we want to help you really evolve in your journey just as we've evolved in ours. So that's my little spin on Non-Fungible Thursdays. But I certainly hope that, at least from my perspective, Richard continues to join us for Non-Fungible Thursdays because it's just been a recent addition that he's stepped in. So,
yep. And planning on attending a lot more of those. And thank you for doing that recap of that. And just to go back for a second, Aftershock, when you think about, okay, who am I and why should I be coming to that? So even if you're a brand new person entering the space, you just want to learn about what's happening in this space. You might not follow everything, but we do take time to break down specific terms and to make sure that you can follow us along that journey. But a lot of that news is probably going to be for your person that's been in it for a while, trying to learn more and trying to keep up to date on all the things happening in this space. So it's probably more of your intermediate to expert type of content. Now, NFT Thursdays, this is for anybody. This is brand new person to your crypto OG, trying to learn more about the space, trying to get alpha for anyone. But the content that we truly make for everyone, and this is especially for the newbies in the space. You are brand new to this space. You don't know what's going on. They keep on saying these things like NFTs and staking and whatever. And you're trying to understand what all these terms mean and how you can learn and educate yourself so that you can keep going down this rabbit hole. We have 2 great pieces of content. The first I'm going to point out is called Crypto Decrypted. So Chris Canaros has been leading that for a while now and is creating short form videos somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes on different talking points. So, for example, if you wanted to learn more about what is blockchain layers, what is Bitcoin, what is an ecosystem, what is Ethereum, what is a DApp, etc. There are so many great pieces of content that break all of that down. We'll give you definitions. We'll give you examples. We'll give you real life applications and next steps that you can do with that type of information. So if you're brand new in the space, trying to learn more about some of these terms that are being flown around everywhere, or even if you're intermediate and trying to like get a refresher on some of these different types of words and phrases in the space, we have really good content and videos for that. Shout out to Chris for putting those on. Another piece of content that we want to make sure that we let you know about is our written pieces. So on our website, if you go to crypto-current.co, if you're watching this over on YouTube, you can see it up top. And also all of our social links that you can go follow us as well for all of our content. You can go and read on two different types of content that we make. One is called Crypto Basics, which is going and teaching on different types of basics, sort of like Crypto Decrypted, but picking even more niche type of topics and going deeper and explaining how all of those different things work. But we also have what's called Crypto Opinions, and this is more thought-provoking pieces and things that are ways that our different writing community is trying to explain different things happening out in the space. So, for example, who are some of the top celebrities that are helping to further the blockchain community? Who are some of the top women in the space, etc.? We have a whole lot of think pieces that we put there as well. So if you like written content, we can meet you there as well. And we want to be able to provide resources for people. So if they have a conversation with someone, you now have a link. You now have something that you can now send to somebody to help share that. On top of that, some of the newer profiles that we've been on. So we are now making more TikToks. If you're familiar with us there, we are on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. We even have a Telegram channel in the Discord. So we are trying to meet you where you are. Ultimately, we are creating content that's not selling you anything. We're not selling you anything. We are really just trying to empower you with information so you can now be empowered to make your own decisions, be able to speak from a more educated place about these different topics, and then be able to go and act however you want to with that information. So that kind of gives you a full scope of everything that we're working on. But Steve, even just thinking about what it took to understand all of these different places where we're creating content and meeting people where they are, one of the goals with bringing you on as the team was to help us to kind of put all that together. How are you feeling about how we've kind of constructed our different layers of content?
I'm really proud of what this team's accomplished in just a short time, right? We have, in a lot of ways, completely overhauled the content strategy here at Cryptocurrency since I was brought on. And we've experimented. We've tried new things. For a period of time there, we were doing Cryptocurrency lives was it 1 or 2 times a week?
2 times.
I want to say it was 2 times a week. And we were really pushing ourselves to continue putting out exceptional content in just every single channel. Now, I think that as we've evolved over time, we've really focused on trying to shore that up into more high quality content per channel, and even like trying to carve things down to make sure that they're more impactful. But I expect over time that's going to start to become more of the norm here, right? Across 300 episodes, this show has evolved tremendously. And granted, we're just talking about the interviews, right? We're not just talking about like all of the content and all of the episode count that we have over, on our podcast platforms and even here on YouTube. But what I think about for our future is, what can we continue to do to level up experience? What can we do for you, the listener at home, to make your experience listening to Cryptocurrency more engaged, more involved, more beneficial, right? We want you to be able to unlock tremendous value over here. And we're always thinking about how to improve that. So as I look forward, you can expect definitely in the next 2 to 3 months, big bumps up in terms of the quality that you see on video when you're joining us over on YouTube. You're going to be able to look forward to, again, really high quality guests by way of a couple of really big names in the NFT space who we may talk about a little bit later. You can, of course, expect more players from the DeFi space that Richard's met across his journey. But I also think that through this evolution, our written content is going to stay one of the most hidden gems of what we produce. We really do have a phenomenal team member who has been leading the charge in our editorial content, and that's Rose Nowak. And we want to give her tremendous props for what she's done in terms of managing all of our editorial. But I think that as it's evolved, it's also given us an opportunity to go back and really put together a larger content guide and be able to produce not necessarily a white paper, but a glossary of these terms and deeper breakdowns on the concepts around Web3. So I think over the course of the next year and over the next 100 episodes, you're going to see very soon that we have an absolute content juggernaut here. And it's just going to keep getting better in terms of the quality of the content that we put out. So I certainly hope that the audience at home will be with us through that journey and will tell their friends, because it's going to get a lot more interesting. Not that it's not already interesting.
For sure. And as I keep looking back on each milestone, 100, 150, 200, 250, et cetera, we just keep elevating the game in a lot of different ways, from quality, from not just the production quality, but also our visuals have improved greatly, written content, quality of guests, and so on and so forth. We got so many great things coming your way. With this being episode 300, I have to just take 2 seconds really quickly just to really emphasize how amazing our team is. I don't know if you have been on our website, gone to our About page and checked out our team. We have a rock solid, amazing team. It's been amazing to start with 2 people and have it basically grow to 10 who all work together to create all of this amazing content for you. And a lot of people who are doing things behind the scenes. So I just want to give a shout out to the team. Thank you so much for all of the hard work that you've been doing. For everyone that's worked with us previously, just a gigantic, tremendous thank you for all of the feedback and mentorship and old guests that come on and give me feedback. Thank you so much. Everything that you give me is helping to make all of the things that we give back to our community that much better and that much greater as we elevate all the things that we're doing over at Cryptocurrent. And also want to shout out that for this big 300 episode, by the time this releases, we will actually be together in Austin. We're having our first team retreat. We're going to be doing a lot of fun things around the city. And I just want to have a big celebration to be able to show my appreciation to the team for all the things that we've been able to accomplish up at this point. So looking forward to that as well. But something else I want to tease up for you really quickly is that be looking out. Cryptocurrent might be putting on a pretty special event real soon. More details to come out really soon on that, but should be an absolutely amazing time. And we have a ton of other amazing things on the way. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I'm excited to continue it with you. Steve, anything else that you want to tease up?
I just want to say thank you, not to the community, but to you for a second, because I know that I have been on for a little over 2 years, but being able to join this team has given me a new purpose in my life. And frankly, that's not something that a lot of people get to say, right? They get locked into a job that, has just become the norm for them, their comfort zone, where they live. And as I look across my past in entrepreneurship, because I started my own company back in 2015 when you were starting one of your first, and coming out of that company, I thought I was going to be in software forever. And I thought to myself, okay, well, what does that mean? And then I decided, no, that's not exactly what it needs to be for me forever. And I started my first pivot, and that's how I eventually came over here. So having the opportunity to work with you and being able to put out this content that can really make a difference in people's lives as it relates to their crypto journey and finding their way to financial freedom, it's been liberating in a lot of ways, but it's really shown me what I can do and what potential I have as a creator. And not only is that, but also as a business partner. So I appreciate you for giving me this chance to join you over here and be able to affect some real change in the world. So thanks, buddy.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. Sincerely, looking forward to celebrating in real life real soon. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for being on this journey. One of the coolest things that happened recently, one of our recent speakers was telling me how they had been a listener of this show for the last year and was able to give me just a ton of feedback before we started the conversation. And it warmed my soul just to know that we're getting to a place where not only are we starting to get brand recognition, but we are getting people who see the value of this show and are appreciative for the value that we are giving back to the community. So thank you all for being a part of this journey. I hope you continue to be a part of the journey with us. If you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure you share it. Make sure you have other people know about us and are putting this out there. If you're listening to us, share us on all of the podcasts that you have so we can get more people subscribed over to us. And if you're on other social channels, please follow us. If you're on our YouTube, please subscribe. Do all the things. We really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for everything. And as always, stay cryptocurrent.